Welcome to the NY Patriot Show. In this episode, I cannot be happy enough to have my buddy Ron with me again, co-hosting. It's always a pleasure to have you, Ron. To have you on, Ron. Thank you very much for making it tonight. And
Yeah,
what is up? How are you? How you doing? You doing all right
I'm
today?
good. Yeah, I'm good.
Very
Yeah,
good.
it's really crazy, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation with the Boozy Bros here because we talked a little bit about them and briefly, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll join in on that show for sure.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you know what? Ron loves this stuff. I was like, why didn't I ask him to jump on? So I was like, I literally just asked him a few days ago, and he was like, yeah, sure. So that was great. Thank you very much, Ron, for making it.
Yeah, no problem.
So I got Ron from Wicked Planet. His links are in the bottom as usual. So if you want to check out his amazing show, if you have not heard of it yet, his links are in the bottom. And tonight I got the Boozy Bros. So I'm all fucked up. I got the
That's awesome.
Boozy Bros. I was gonna say brothers, but I'm all screwed up. Boozy Bros on tonight with us. As you can see, it's even on their T-shirt. They're trying to proving the paranormal.
That's the goal.
Yes, and you know that I'm very much, well, not you, but the listeners know that I am very much into the paranormal. I normally stick to, occultism or stuff like that, and I have gotten into true crime because I do think there is, occultism within that too. But
Oh yeah,
paranormal, I do think, in a sense, it's almost as if you are scientists with data to prove magic. That's really what I think, in a sense, which is what's got me buying equipment and going to start to do it myself. Because I do think with the paranormal, I do think you can, in a way, I do think you can prove that magic is real. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very interested in paranormal and just growing up. Again, people have heard me say this over and over again on my own show. I was totally into ghosts and stuff. I had my own experiences at my house. My mom and my dad had their own experiences in the same house. So I just grew up, especially on Long Island, because it's supposedly a big, huge burial ground for Indians. When anything weird happened as a kid, it was like always like, oh, it's the Indian spirits. It's the Indian spirits. So just brought up where I was brought up, we were already believing that the spirits from the dead was still lurking.
Yeah, right.
So I guess I was just brought up believing in the paranormal to begin with, but since I've gotten into occultism and since I've gotten into magic, I definitely think there is a huge connection. And
Yeah.
I love talking about this stuff. And I came across these fellas right here, these two gentlemen and this lady, and I really wanted to have them on. I listened to a little bit of their stuff, and they actually sounded like they had, could have a conversation, and then I half thought it. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I figured I got to get them on, and we got to talk some stuff. And so here we are. I'm not sure whichever one of you want to, maybe Pablo, if you want to start off and just introduce your name, and then we'll go around, and then we'll, guess whichever one of you want to, maybe just give us a little history about, maybe how you got started or how you got interested, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I can do that. I can tell you all about us. So my name is Pablo Cordova. We actually started about a year ago. Our show is about that exact thing, actually. We are using modern science in order to portray and show the paranormal and the show that it's actually real and that there's real paranormal activity happening out there. So I actually reached out to Adam and Pandora here because they had another channel called Paranormal Wasteland where they were doing a phenomenal job. And I noticed them constantly posting, just kicking butt at it. And I was like, I got to have them too. So I reached out, what was it, like 2-3 months ago? Something like
At
that.
that time, yep.
And it's been amazing ever since. They've been superstars, and I'm super thankful to have them.
Nice.
It's been wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, we're super excited to join with Boozy Bros too and become part of the entire team because this is something that we've since we began, we really didn't know where to take it besides just doing it personally. Like we just liked investigating in general. We liked contacting other teams. We liked doing this whole entire thing. So being able to get with somebody like Pablo, who is very educated about it, very, able to take us to the next level, and him as well wanting to take the next level. It just kind of really put us into overdrive. Like, okay, let's actually start really picking this up, and both, enjoying doing it as well as exposing what what we encounter, and maybe show what other people are curious about.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Isn't that great how, because of the lack of fear of denial, Pablo reached out to you,
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah.
all of this has happened.
yeah.
Oh,
He was
for real,
really
from
nice.
that having the lack of fear, the experiences you're all having now. Isn't that amazing?
Right. And the funny part
Well,
about that
thank you, guys.
was, well, the funny part about it too is like once we clicked off very quickly. I mean, we went out to dinner one night. Next thing you know, we went on our investigation. I mean, it was just like, the funny thing was that we never met, and it just like seemed like we already knew each other for a while. Like, it was just so
Love it.
comfortable and so fun to kind of just do what we do. And I mean, not only talk about the investigation and things like that, but just kind of know each other too. I mean,
As
just
friends.
it just seems so
Yeah.
natural, and knowing that makes it so much more comfortable and so much more exciting to do. You just feel like, oh wow, like you start looking in the future and you're like, wow, this is really gonna this is gonna go a long ways. We feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I wish all of you the best of luck with what you're doing too. For real.
Thank
Thank
you.
Oh no, of course. I guess. Well, if you don't mind, get everybody else's name too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Adam with Paranormal Wasteland, but obviously now part of Boozy Bros.
I'm
And-
Pandora.
And it's Pandora. And we are really into the investigating of the paranormal world. For me, I was never really chasing the, I would say, videoing it, things like that. I was never really looking to, expose it until she was really interested in it, as well as Pablo reaching out, things like that. Me, I was kind of person. She was like, "Hey, let's go with this team and things like that." And I always loved that too, but I was always more caring about actually confronting,
Getting the evidence.
yeah, getting the evidence, actually going and confronting and trying to capture anything personally, like, bringing our gear, whatever we could do to try to experience any kind of encounter with, any type of paranormal activity. So, for me, I was kind of nonchalant about it. I'll be completely honest. And, just next thing you know, it just kind of it kind of snowballed. Next thing you know, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Now I'm more into it.
I gave him a nudge.
Yeah, I'm more into it now than ever, and now I'm about to take my passion into this and really take off with it. So,
Yep.
But for her,
For me, I've been obsessed with the paranormal since I was like 5 years old. Whenever I was in 4th grade, my greatest achievement in life, my librarian told me that I had checked out every book of the paranormal that they had in my school. And so that's pretty much how obsessed I've been from the beginning.
Cool.
I would watch Ghost Adventures with my dad every Wednesday. Every time we'd go to my mom's house, we'd watch Ghost Adventures, which, I won't get into that, but I've always been obsessed. I've always believed. There's never been a point in my life where I didn't believe. I've always just immediately took it all with.
I think that's how it was with me too. The exact same. I just never I just blindly accepted that it's possible that there's
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's never been a point in my life where it didn't exist.
It was just more of like, well, how does that happen?
I mentioned science behind it and how it's energy created and all of that. So.
And that was for me too. Like growing up, like I was never really like, thinking ghosts were real like that. I remember being really little and some weird things were happening around my parents' house, and just like, the first thing that hit you is like, is that a ghost? Like, what is that? And then that's when when that fear hit me, I just started looking into ghost stuff. And then I started noticing more things happen. And just like my entire life growing up, it was never anything that I really dedicated to, but I was always interested in it. I was always looking it up. And, you'd be alone in your house, or when I was little, I'd be alone in my parents' house, and, some weird shit would happen. And I would sit on the front porch until my brother came home from football practice. I'm like, I'm not going in that house. And so, like things like that. And so, like I said, it's one of those things. And when I got with her, she was really into it, and I was full on believer by the time I met her, obviously. And then that's when things happened. I was like, okay, let's really start buying some gear. Let's really start testing these theories out that any ghost shows that they do, or any of the YouTubers that do. People actually investigate. We kind of took off in that world trying to do it personally. And in the time that we've done it, I've came across enough things to really
Seal your belief.
Yeah, really seal my belief. And not only that, but I really want to show others, like, hey, this is something that is I think,
Maybe just help open people's minds.
yeah,
to
open
it.
people's minds to it for
There
sure.
you go, right? Just get
Yeah.
people to think a little bit.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Think outside the box, just a tiny bit, you know?
Yep.
But we're using modern science as much as we can because we don't do fake stuff. We don't believe in that sort of thing. So everything, if it has an explanation, then we always try to give the explanation.
Exactly.
You know.
And, and if we're unsure if what it is, like I like to take passion in debunking things. Like, some people will think this, and like, okay, it was just that, or I'll try to find any gap that it's not what we think it is until it's
unexplainable.
It's unexplainable. And once we get that, then that's when I'm like, what was, that's when the questions start flowing in. How can that happen? Why? Things like that. So.
And it blows your mind, like what was that?
That's the most important part, is in the sea of things that you can't explain or that you can debunk. Like, oh, that was like the wind shaking a little bit too hard.
Right.
In the sea of all of that stuff, you find that one unexplainable thing that's like, that's it.
Yep. That's it.
That's awesome. You find that one little gem inside of everything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. You guys, actually, I'm not even going to get into it because it's going to start getting into opinions on ghost hunters. And
Well.
I was going to go back to Zach Baggins, but I'm just going to leave that alone. Real quick, I mean, I watched the show, but I mean,
yeah, right.
We started.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to be honest. If it wasn't for Aaron, I may not watch it. Tell you the truth. But real quick, and then not to get off of you guys, it's just that just in case people don't know, if you want to spend maybe a minute or two yourself, Ron, I mean, you're into the paranormal, you believe this stuff because, I mean, you live with these experiences, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if maybe, just real quick, if you want to get into.
Yeah, the thing is with me is like with ghosts, I've always, it wasn't until we moved up into our farmhouse when I was about 13 or 14 that I ever experienced anything, paranormal, ghosts, or anything like that. But, and we won't really get into that. I do, before the end of the show, have a really interesting story I want to tell you guys. But when my parents were buying this piece of property, and it's a big piece of property, even the realtor had disclosed that there was weird things happening there.
Oh wow!
And which I understand.
Do you think they would have gave you leeway, or did you try using that as leeway to get the price down?
Oh, it was already cheap.
Oh,
So,
no, because I would have been like, "Oh, sign me up!" But I'd play it like, "Oh, I should be taking this."
Well, what was weird about this is this piece of property. What I thought was strange with it, even as a kid, was it had changed hands multiple times in only like a 10-year period.
Oh wow!
No, I'm out.
And well, it's what the old timers called a white elephant. And a white elephant means it's a big, huge place that requires a lot of upkeep, a lot of expense, and it's going to be expensive to own.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but my father had his heart set on buying this property, and that's all it took. and my father was a very superstitious man, and he was a little like sketched out, not gonna lie, there for like the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was only until I had a few paranormal experiences there that I started to kind of open my mind up to the idea that ghosts are the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And at first it was just little things, right? And then as I got older, these experiences became more in depth, right? So it was after that I had no doubt whatsoever that there was such a thing as ghosts, right?
Mm.
What I was trying to figure out, and still trying to figure out to this day, and maybe there's more than one like explanation for this, but where do ghosts come from? What are ghosts, right? Like everybody says, I saw a ghost, I saw this. Okay, so is this an alternate timeline that's thinly veiled that we're seeing through? Is this an apparition that is refusing to go on to the afterlife and is stuck here for whatever reason, maybe because it was a traumatic death, or maybe it was a suicide, which happens to be the case on this property. One tragic death and one suicide. Or is it something? Is it just something like spiritual? What is it? And I think there's more than one answer to that question, right?
Right.
I think so.
I think there's multiple.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But what we were told when we first moved there was that there was a little boy that there was some type of tragic accident. I want to say it was early 1900s, late 1800s. The boy we were told, was around 9 or 10 years old, and that he got killed on the farm.
Oh, wow.
Now, this farm was built and was owned by the Hill family, like Hill. And the Hills owned this property in some fashion right up until, I want to say, the 1950s or 1960s. And then it started changing hands. We moved there in 1978. That's when we moved in.
That's when I was born.
So, so I just aged myself, right? but I have seen the little boy twice, right?
Oh, wow.
So I knew then that, and it's weird, and I think ghosts only allow certain people to see them.
I think so too.
If they're, let's just say, a Casper, right? If they're a friendly ghost, they will let certain people see them to maybe try to make contact. Maybe they're lonely. We don't know, right? And then you have other ghosts that make themselves seen to you because they just don't want you there, right? Like we
Very
never had that feeling in this house. Never had the feeling that the ghosts didn't want us there. The only thing that I had figured out is that the ghosts were trying to communicate with us.
Well, at least they didn't. At least it wasn't that they didn't want you there.
Right.
No, it wasn't like that at all. And as a matter of fact, when my parents bought that place, it was split. It was a big, huge house, but it was split up into apartments. Well, what we did was we turned it all back into one big house. And even the people that were renting at the time, I mean, we gave them 60 days notice to find another place to live, right? And they were really super cool anyways. As a matter of fact, there was 3 apartments in the main house and 2 apartments in what we call the Hurricane House. And they call it the Hurricane House in town because when one of the old hurricanes that came through took down a bunch of trees, and they sawed their own lumber, and they built this double-decker chicken house out of that.
Oh, wow.
So this apartment building, the Hurricane House, was originally a chicken house.
Right.
Now this farm was one of the biggest and oldest poultry farms in the state of New Hampshire at one time. So it's a historical property, right?
Right.
A lot of deaths.
So anyways,
all is human or not. Also,
one of the people that lived up in one of the apartments in the moved into one of the apartments in the Hurricane House. he ended up living there forever. But I can remember them telling us, listen, things go on here. Sometimes you'll hear a little baby crying. That was another one. I never experienced that, but that was the one they were more more frequently talking about, was the little baby crying.
Oh,
Right.
That's creepy.
That is super creepy.
Yeah. And to really support that, what you experience, we've actually have multiple times been in places to where, and it's a very common thing for a lot of investigators, that go into places and experience things different from other investigators.
It's always different.
And what's known,
depends on your intentions going into it, I think.
Yeah, and like you said, I think some ghosts or some spirits present themselves different to different people. I think that's just like, if you think about it just in the everyday world, humans may treat other people differently based off of whatever opinion they have or whatever ideas they have or whatever. But I think the ghosts or spirits are the same way. I mean, anything that was living here on Earth at one point probably has the same, maybe has the same ideas in the afterlife too. I mean, if you think about a guy in the 1950s seeing a guy like me with skinny jeans and long hair, they'd probably be like, "Who the heck is this guy? What's he doing in my place?"
Why is this weird?
Yeah, and I just think things like that. That's on obviously a question mark, but I think maybe things like that is what could be reasons why you may have different experiences and why others may have different as well.
Yeah, the other thing that I always said too, well, not always, but as I've gotten older, of course, I develop different thought processes about things, and and so I have this thing I call the sixth sense theory, right? Do these ghosts know that they're dead?
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, is there an instance where maybe they're just up doing their regular everyday thing, and they're not realizing for whatever reason that they're gone, they're dead?
They say that that's the difference between residual and intelligent hauntings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
yep.
Yeah.
And that's what we encounter a lot. And
I was going to bring that up. I was actually going to say I do think a lot of it is just residual energy too.
I think so too. I think a lot of it is residual, and
It's like
I will
an
say,
imprint or something possible.
Yeah.
I go based off of the fact that energy can be neither created nor destroyed. So whenever we die, where does that energy go? It's left imprinted inside of wherever you are, wherever your most of your energy was.
Yeah, and like me and Pablo, and Pandora, we all experienced things on our last investigation that kind of was a little bit of both intelligent and both residual. And the intelligent part only happened for a little bit in few spots, and wasn't really, we actually just went based off of theories that are what people have said about that place, and we got the same exact results back, but very quickly and very responsive. That was really odd.
And then the residual, it was in like the high traffic areas of the hospital where people would go in and out, and like a lot of their energy would be centered there.
Yeah, and that's.
I think it's crazy fascinating.
That where it's like they're stuck in a loop. I know there's a time. I can't remember that.
For like places that are built out of limestone, they call that the stone tape theory. Where their energy is trapped in like a time loop, pretty much.
So it's like that's why you always see whatever you're seeing, it's always doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like never doing anything different,
Yep, just their daily.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like you're viewing it from like a distance of like somebody doing it. It's like Groundhog's Day for that ghost.
No, like you're kind of like time traveling, and you see what they do like every day.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that, Pandora, when you said about the limestone. New Hampshire, we're called the Granite State.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, granite is literally you walk outside your door, there's a piece of granite. Okay? So in a lot of these old houses, the foundations were actually stacked granite, right? And isn't there some piezoelectric thing that happens around a lot of granite? And of course, granite contains a lot of like radioactive materials and things like that. And in everywhere, like my property here is lined with granite boulders, stone walls, that are who knows how old, like a couple 100 years old, right? And all the cemeteries, like here, all the original cemeteries, they're all lined by granite. It's all granite everywhere, and I always wondered if like how limestone has an effect, if granite has an effect also, which is just a little side thought that I always used to have, because you have hauntings in these older properties. My mom's house is, I want to say, 1820.
Oh wow.
So that's not old, believe it or not, in my town. Like old in my town are houses that are built in the 1740s, 1750s, right?
Good.
But anyways, just quick, and then I'll finish up because I want to hear what you guys have.
Yeah.
But I do want to tell you this other story later, so don't let me forget.
Absolutely.
It wasn't until, and I think this, Pandora, might be what you describe as an intelligent haunting.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I was sleeping in one of the upstairs bedrooms, and a 6 foot tall person was shaking me,
Oh my gosh.
waking me up, and I looked right at him. I couldn't make his face out. It's almost like his face was slightly blurry,
Mm-hmm.
but I could tell he was talking to me. He was trying to talk to me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
And I can remember thinking it was my younger brother, because we used to mess with each other because we were night owls. We would be out partying 2, 3 in the morning, bringing sneaking girls home, that kind of thing.
Hey, nice.
And he would always mess with me, and I would mess with him. It just depended on who was home first, right?
Right.
I just, as I'm experiencing this, I'm just thinking it's my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Listen, get the F away from me. Go to your room. Go to bed. I'm not in the mood tonight." And it turned around and walked out of my room.
Oh, wow.
And I got up, and it was weird, is because I was awake, but then I think I dozed back off, and then I really woke up after, like just minutes after. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to, use the bathroom. So I get up, walk over, use the bathroom. Now the bathroom, like, you had to go walk past the bathroom to get to my brother's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I used the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to get him back. So I reach in and I started flicking his light off and on, like really fast, like flashing strobe lights. And I'm looking in his bed. He's not even there.
Ooh.
That would make my stomach drop.
Yeah.
So then,
you get that feel through you. You're like, what?
So then check it out. I walk in his room. I look out his window down to where we used to park our cars. His car wasn't even there. He was nowheres around there.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's when I walked outside.
So it wasn't him. So it wasn't him.
That would mess me up.
Yeah.
Well,
from that point on, I knew that ghosts were real.
Well, and the fact that you were able to talk to whoever it was proves that wasn't sleep paralysis. Because whenever you're in sleep paralysis, you aren't able to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good. That's a good.
But check this out.
That was real.
This is where it's interesting. When I talked to previous people that lived in this place, and then I talked to a friend that I grew up with, whose grandparents used to live there. They're saying, yeah, there was an old man that hung himself in the barn.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm like, well, do you have a description of him? and nobody really had a description with him, but I can tell you the rope that he used to hang himself, when they cut him down, that what's left of that rope looped around that beam is still there to this day.
Wow. Oh, that holds some stuff in there, I bet.
And then when my father discovered this whole thing, he said, "Do not touch that rope. Don't go anywhere near that rope. Leave it there."
Yeah.
And that rope is still there. In NY, when you come up, I will show it to you.
Yeah, I definitely got to get some. Yeah, I got to get that for sure.
So you think it possibly attached itself to that rope? Maybe it's kind of what it sounds like.
Emotional memory, yeah.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is it's hanging from the third loft on one of the big support beams. I ain't touching it. It ain't going
anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah.
I'll do a banishing ritual on it when I'm there, Ron.
And we also have there's a cemetery on our property as well. So
you just have a hot spot for paranormal over there.
Hey,
you have running water around there too?
Across the street,
you got everything now. If you got
across the street, there's a river. Yeah.
Holy shit! You're probably just in a really good spot for activity.
Shoot.
Yeah.
What's another thing too is I think a lot of things like whether it's that bedroom or out in the barn, I think a lot of it's significant, like emotions, like whether it was very, very bad or very, very good or very, very happy, very, very angry, whatever that spirit or ghost that you encountered has something attached to, you know, whatever you were, whatever position you were in. Like hospitals, obviously, I think is like one of the most notorious for having things. Same thing with prisons. A lot of bad things happen there.
Mhm.
And
Asylums.
yeah, asylums, things that people may have experienced that are whether just some type of amplified emotion that you have. Like, and I guess if you can think about it personally, like you ever think about like a really like one of the worst experiences you had, and you can remember the place, you remember the time of day, you can remember everything, almost the smell, even things like that. I think those things. Maybe in the afterlife, we hold on to those type of
Or
emotions.
maybe your energy was deposited there.
Yeah. I think you kind of leave something behind when that happens. I may have had a really, really bad experience somewhere here, but I may have not died here. But because of that experience I had there, my energy may be left behind at that very place. And
Or
maybe years from now, people are looking back, investigating me like, hey, maybe that's always a question in the air. I always think.
or say it's a piece of property that you lived at for.
Your childhood, yeah.
I mean, I've lived in my house for 30 years. Like I've lived in my own house longer than I've lived anywhere else in my entire rest of my lifetime.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So weird stuff goes on here too. We won't get into it tonight, but maybe later we'll do that. So I mean,
Right.
it makes sense that hospitals would be a hotbed for paranormal activity. Like hands down, that's a no-brainer, right? It's a
Right.
no-brainer. Yeah. So what do you guys have for what was your most interesting or investigation that you gained the most activity from?
Probably this hospital one we just did. Honestly, we the second we walked in, we started getting all kinds of activity. We set the REM pod down. Seconds later, it starts going off. It has a 3-foot radius, but
actually, I hate
nothing was there.
hate to interrupt you, but actually, real quick, if you don't mind, because just to make it easier for maybe the people listening, can you maybe list off and just give a basic example, definition of what you guys use when you guys go investigate?
I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of both, all three of us can honestly actually kind of give into this because we all kind of use the same gear. We all have the same thing.
We have one of my favorites personally is the REM pod. So what it is it's like a circular kind of object, but it has an antenna sticking out of it, and basically if it emits like I think some sort of like a static field on its own, and whatever penetrates that field and gets close to the antenna, it starts lighting up different colors, and the closer you get to the antenna, like the more like intense it kind of gets, and like the more colors light up. So basically, if a spirit touches the antenna of it, it will start to go off. And he's bringing our equipment out to show you guys. But
just to help the audience as well too, just so they have a better idea what we're talking about.
To get a visual would be cool because, like NY and I, we know what REM pods are, but maybe a lot of the viewers don't. So
we love to educate people.
Yeah, absolutely. And
he has the REM pod right now.
Yeah. So, for example, this is one of the first things that we pulled out when we got in there, and just because it's one of the most how would I say it?
It's really big confirmation
because
we can set it out and it never goes off for like the whole investigation, but then other places we can set it out and it automatically goes.
I feel like even for myself, I think like something like that just makes sense to be like one of the first things. Like that, and doing like a reading of like the EMF to me just seems like your first basics when you get to it.
Yes.
So
100%.
And so, of course, obviously, this is our REM pod right here. We use this pretty much the entire night on our last investigation. Honestly, any investigation we pull it out. I think some places it may be less appropriate to use than others, but for the most part, we use it pretty much almost everywhere we go.
So explain that.
Yep, exactly. So
this is the antenna. You can
so you pull up the antenna, right, and of course get your switch on the bottom. It'll make a few little click noises once you turn it on. Light up, and it says. Yeah. So once you break its barrier, and it gets this point at the grain, get closer, and then once you touch it,
It
now
gets more intense.
yeah, and I can't really show the other features on it, which is I believe these
the temperature and the shadow.
Yeah, the temperature and the shadow, which for example, our last investigation, we were getting a lot of temperature readings, and there was no
There
breeze.
was no wind. The windows were boarded up, so there was no wind coming
And
through.
you can ask Pablo too. I mean, we were all sitting there looking like there's no wind like at all. There's no airflow. It was just as still.
It's not just like a small fluctuation in temperature either. It has to exceed 2 degrees higher or 2 degrees lower. So if you're in an environment where where the air is stagnant, there's not really any temperature changes, and it keeps going down or up by a whole 2 degrees, that's that's kind of confirmation, and we got a lot last time.
2 degrees is a lot too. 2 degrees is a lot. It doesn't sound it, but it is.
And in the REM pod itself, though, think about me, a physical person
being able to set it off,
being able to make it actually do all this stuff. We were only there for about 10 minutes. Once we actually started the investigation, we were there for only 10 minutes, and
10 minutes.
So me and Pablo went into in this room, what was known. We can go into that a little bit later, but go in this room, and we start trying to test theories and what people have said about this room. And not even 5 minutes, this REM pod was going off like crazy.
And it was kind of confirming what everyone else was saying.
And it was intelligent. We would ask a question, and we kind of use the REM pod also as a way to communicate with them as well too. Like, hey, if you're here with us, can you make this REM pod go off? And sometimes, we kind of try to do our best to explain to whatever's with us how to use it, what it does. Explain them it's not there to harm them. But in the time that we did that, the first, like I said, we were only there for about 10 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. And it was going off. And that was really shocking because we can't get this thing. We've had this in our apartment just sitting there and won't go off. We've had it other places and it never goes off. The most that we've ever had this go off was in our last investigation, and it was incredible. So this was one of our favorites to use for good confirmation.
I can go into the next one. We have also a spirit box. So what that does is it sweeps through radio frequencies super fast, like how many per second? Like there's a lot.
You can set it, yeah.
Yeah, you can set it. There's like I think 150, 200, 250, 300. There's different.
It sweeps through them so fast that you will not be able to get a full sentence out of a radio station. And so, you obviously have to set it to AM to make sure that there's not as much radio interference and stuff. But if you can get a full sentence out of it, that's pretty much confirmation because they say that spirits can talk through the radio waves of it. This is the spirit box. It's a pretty cool little gadget, but it just sweeps through radio frequencies, which spirits are said to be able to talk through. And then if you get like a full sentence or a word that pertains to what you're asking, then that can be confirmation. One of my favorite things to do with this is called the Estes method because it was developed in Estes Park in Colorado. But basically what you do is you have someone like Adam, you would connect headphones to the spirit box and have it sweeping through, put headphones on him, put a blindfold on him so he doesn't know what you're asking. And then he just says out loud whatever he hears through the spirit box. And if whatever you're asking, if whatever he says pertains to it, that could be spirit communication.
Yeah. And just kind of show you what the spirit box does for anybody who doesn't know. So we'll turn it on.
Yeah.
And I have it.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, but it's sweeping through all those radio stations that fast. And so, you can't really hear anything on it right now because we don't really have that many spirits here at our apartment.
Right.
But
I feel like it's just duplicating our own brains, and it's just saying what, what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Our own brains probably pick up 1,000 fucking radios.
Yeah, and it will, it's remarkable because we'll get full sentences, but you're hopping through radio frequencies. So,
and then you get different voices doing it too, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it'll be the same voice too.
Yeah, or the same.
That's what's crazy.
Or the same word. Last week, or the other few days ago, we had the same word come through multiple times in one room. like the same word. What are the chances of?
Yeah, see that I would start to. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Does the spirit box record?
We can't make it. We can.
I think if you have like a different like type of spirit box, you can make it like record like what you hear on it.
You can make a record. You can actually grab it, and there's an export. I would say, you can hook it up to a recorder, and it would actually record everything that comes through it.
Okay.
And you record it that way. There's a couple different ways you record it, but for the most part, usually we don't really worry about doing that. And I think we will start doing that in at certain points,
especially with the Estes method, because we just want everyone to hear what we're hearing.
Well, I was gonna say even just to have like physical.
Yeah,
exactly.
And also too, which I've encountered this a lot, where I've heard a spirit box say something and somebody else hears it, and we both think it says two different things, but it sounds like it says both. Now, a lot of times, when I do the Estes method, I say out loud what is the most clearest, and like the other day, there was things coming in as clear as day. I mean, it was incredible. Like word for word, you could play it to anybody, and that's exactly what it says. So,
and more importantly, you can't hear with the headphones on because they're noise canceling. So you can't really hear anything at all outside of the headphones.
Yeah.
So there's no way for him to hear the questions.
Yeah. And the reason for that being a benefit is because a lot of times you'll see people try to do it, and if this is just something to throw out there. Some people may hear what other people are saying, and they start trying to.
It's kind of like a bias. Like even if you think you're not being biased, you still are with what you hear.
And I think you can manipulate what you're looking to hear compared to what you actually hear. I think it kind of goes into effect too. But what we were doing, I couldn't hear anybody until either they tapped me or I said, "Okay, that was it."
But what's really confirming is when you hear words that you don't hear on radio, like cuss words and stuff like that. Like you don't hear that on radio, and so whenever you hear that come through the spirit box, it's like, oh, like that might be something.
or for instance, an older vernacular, right? Like language used, 50 years ago
like
or 100 years ago or whatever. Sure.
Yeah.
What else we have? Oh, go ahead, Pablo.
Oh, like who's saying, like our names, for instance, like who's saying Pablo in Oklahoma on the radio? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After we're asking, like, can you say one of our names or something? Like, that's not happening.
Yeah. And like I said, even to compliment that point, you turn on the spirit box. It's not like you're listening to it all day. You turn it on for the time that you use it at that specific location out of nowhere, and it says his name.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like,
yeah.
That what
was really confirming is me and Ashlyn, who's not here right now, but me and Ashlyn, we had another girl who was doing the Estes method with the headphones on. She couldn't hear us, and the spirit box had jumped. So me and Ashlyn both jumped, and we kind of started laughing. We're like, "Why did we both jump whenever the spirit box told us to jump?" And then she didn't hear us. The girl under the Estes method didn't hear us, and she said, "Stop laughing." And it's like it wanted us to stop laughing at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great thing about the spirit box. It's a way for the the spirits or ghosts or whatever you're investigating to manipulate those radio frequencies to say what it wants to say. So, a lot of times it does come out a little bit unrelated to what you're doing.
And you can kind of write some stuff off. You can be like, that might have been radio interference. Like you have to have kind of like, you take everything with a grain of salt. But.
Yeah, and you guys we'll be coming out with video soon, but at the place that we just investigated, there's a lot of historical things that have happened there with crazy stories like somebody killing their husband or wife or things like that. And the answers that we were getting through it the same ones multiple times.
They were very relevant.
That related to exactly what happened at that location. And that's one of those things that it's almost undeniable. Like, it's just so many things that come through. We just can't really push it to the side. It just happens.
What's even crazier too is we were live streaming our thing, and our audience were saying like, "Oh, there's words coming through, or there's static in response to our questions," and that was
live. It wasn't
we couldn't hear anything.
Yeah,
and
that was out loud.
Yeah, and there's we even have video of it of where I saw at the corner of my eye a white mist. Now, this is probably one of the first times I saw a white mist ever. I've heard stories of people seeing like a white mist, like a white fog. It looked like, I wish I could draw a picture where it looked like, almost like a half moon, I would say, but just like in a mist form. And it just went and it flowed that way. And right when I pointed out, did anybody see that? Pablo's audio cut out, and in the video you see this orb as this video's cutting
Come
out,
out of his head.
come out past the camera, and we were just kind of sitting
And
there.
it was
like,
at the same time as the audio interference in the
Yeah.
theory. You said you
and,
saw that.
yeah, and Pablo said my audio cut out. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, the fact that back to back to back, and we didn't see the orb until we reviewed the video. And I was like, look, it's right here,
Right.
bam, straight across.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when they looked in my barn, we got orbs, like legit orbs,
Mm-hmm.
and his REM pod was busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, that's my favorite. We also have the K2, which just it
Nice.
just electromagnetic frequencies. If you put it up to like a phone, it goes off. If you put it up to a computer, it goes off. But if you're in a place that's like has no electricity, has no electromagnetic interference, it can be a way to detect spirits because it is said that they give off electromagnetic frequencies. We also have little cat balls. It's just the like regular cat toys that light up once you touch them. You can use that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. I was
It's
looking.
pretty
I was actually looking for stuff for myself, like just like kind of things that like are not obscure but aren't as popular.
Yeah.
Researching that might actually make sense to use.
Yeah.
Like that's actually kind of like interesting. I do
It's
like that idea.
interesting, and it's not really
And it's
used.
like so like simple and genius.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. It's not used in
Yeah.
television shows. It's just used like I've only ever seen it used in like the YouTube paranormal community or the smaller like teens and everything. I've never seen it used on the big TV shows, which is really
That's
fun.
it,
That
yeah.
kind of sets us apart. But we also have what else do we have?
one of my personal favorites is it's a simple thing, a mag light, and let me pull it out here. Just a normal mag light, just like this. You twist it on,
Twist
turn
it
it
off.
twist it off.
Oh yeah.
And dude, for anybody that ever wants to get into ghost hunting, you kind of put it on the halfway mark.
You
to
put it
there.
right in the space between on and off.
Yeah, I usually put it a little bit. If once I start finding that boundary, I kind of put it more towards the off, because if it does go off, I want something to make it go off. I don't want it to have a malfunction. So, but this is one of the greatest things, and I've used this method so many times, and there's been so many places I've been to where we got nothing. This never went off, nothing at all. I've been other places where it's going crazy. And Lindley Hospital was one that we did. We did that too, and and actually links me go back to a story, or back to our last experience. Me and Pablo, everybody else went on and did their own thing. We went to the kitchen, and that's supposed to be known as the least haunted. Nobody gets experience there at all. And we were in there, and it was nuts. Because last time I was there, everyone said there was nothing happened in the kitchen and nothing happened. I was like, well, I want to go in there just to try it at least. I'm thinking of a kitchen in a hospital. At least residual.
Probably not as.
I'm thinking at least residual at the most part. People running, serving the patients, everything like that. And so me and Pablo are in there just asking questions normal. And the weirdest thing was about this, every time we asked questions, the mag light never went off until me and Pablo were not focused on it or looking away. We'd be looking away and it would come on. And we're just kind of like, it's like messing with us. Like, it's kind of like when we release focus on, right, Pablo? I mean, we released focus on it.
It was like it was trying to communicate, but in a joking way, kind of like playing with us a little bit. It was having fun for sure.
And during that process, though, we this I will say, I actually thought about it over the weekend after the experience, but we heard some pretty loud footsteps come our way, and that was very weird.
That was also a response to one of your questions. I forgot what your question was, but
I think it was, can you make a noise or something like that?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and I started trying to think about. I was trying to debunk it because a few minutes after one of the guys ended up coming down, but we had a music box that was set up right by the hallway.
The music box detects motion in front of it, and
it's very, very, very sensitive to humans. So, like, if you're to people walking like us,
if you put a foot in front of it,
like if he was even like anywhere near that down the hallway, it would have went off. It never went off, and where we heard their footsteps was towards even the blind side of where this music box was, and me and both Pablo heard 3 footsteps. I mean, it was like pop, pop, pop. Like it was like almost kind of a scuffle, and we both just turned around like, "What the heck was that?" And we were sitting there looking at each other, just kind of like, "What was that?" It was freaky.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the first time. Like, I mean, Pablo can even tell you about it as well too.
But,
Yeah, that was crazy, and plus, like I said, while we were streaming, people were saying that they were also hearing things and having a lot of audio interference, which is the first time we've ever experienced anything like that.
The Friday before that, the team that hosts those events at the hospital, Haunted Oklahoma, they were also going live there, and they got the same exact type of audio interference there, and they haven't had that during any of their other lives. It was just during that time. And then we got the same exact thing whenever we went back that next Saturday. So it's kind of like, it sounded like through the static whenever the audio was cutting out, like it was trying to say something over us. Like it was trying to talk to us through the live, but we couldn't hear it because, we were live. We weren't tuning into our own live stream, but it was like really cool how we both kind of got that same experience. It was almost like confirmation, like maybe something is interfering with our audio. But
There's something I did want to ask. Do you guys have like video cameras? Do you use cameras, or you use iPhones? Like, okay.
Oh yeah. We use cameras. I have a mirrorless camera that I run as our main camera. Then she has another cinematography camera. We have really a lot of equipment and a drone and
That's
everything.
Nice. I got a drone too for that shit.
Heck yeah.
That's awesome. That was actually, it was funny how like I really kind of bought it for when I do finally start doing paranormal stuff, and I've ended up using it for tons of other things now that I'm going to use for my podcast anyway, but I just haven't used it for that.
Yeah.
But that was the original reason I got it, and I was like, oh wait, it's going to come in handy for so much other stuff.
Yeah,
I feel like it takes it to the next level for your content, honestly.
Yeah, no, it really
awesome.
That's another reason why I got it. I was like, and honestly, it's fun to play with. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I have.
Until we saw Pablo's, and we were like, "That is so cool."
Yeah.
I have a question. When you were explaining the REM pod, you said that there are instances where it's appropriate to use, and in instances where it's not appropriate to use. Can you explain that?
So for me, I think the REM pod responds in an energy form. I would say I've always used it in, for example, I've been to places where like all these people have died here. I've run that REM pod right there, and it never goes off. And this is just my opinion and experience, and how I investigate based off my own experiences. And for example, there's we went to the Lindley Hospital this week, and they've always said there's a guy who doesn't like anybody sitting in this chair. It really makes him mad. It angers him, things like that. And so we put the REM pod down and wasn't making go off. And I think Pablo or Panda said, try sitting down in the chair. So I sat down in the chair, and we have it recorded. Ryan sat down in the chair now, asking, does me sitting in this chair make you mad? Do you want me to get out of this chair? And that REM pod starts going off, and it's going crazy, like multiple times too. And we asked, do you want us to get out of this chair? Very quick response. It lights up again. And I always think that a REM pod detects a very high level of motion, energy.
In my opinion, it takes a lot of energy to make it go off because it's more of a physical thing.
It's physical, yeah.
They say that spirits need energy to do their hauntings, to especially if it's a poltergeist. That means that they have a lot of energy. So if you're able to make something physically go off like the REM pod, that is very hard for them to do. And so it's more of if you have a higher level kind of haunting. Also, if you have an intelligent haunting. I don't think residual spirits, obviously they don't even realize that we're there. So they're not going to play with the REM pod because they're just in their own day-to-day kind of life. I don't think that they even are paying attention to the REM pod. I think it's intelligent hauntings that normally mess with it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and sometimes it's different though too. I mean, there's been multiple times where we'll just have the REM pod set up just in case, and we'll just put it over here, and it'll start going
It
off.
doesn't hurt to just have
Yeah, it just kind of depends.
I actually had a run-in with what I believe to be a really powerful entity because it actually destroyed my REM pod. It no longer works. So when I went to Japan, this was a few weeks ago. Yeah, this was a few weeks ago. I'm in the Wakayama Prefecture. I'm investigating Japan's most haunted mansion. It goes by a bunch of different names. The other Himuro Mansion. It's the home of Asajiro Yuro, who actually brought ink to Japan. He completely did all the industrial and chemical stuff. He was a big deal back then.
Oh yeah, he had been like royalty if you were like
yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
You were set.
He was set. But I'm in this house. Only a few other YouTubers have ever gotten the privilege to investigate this house, and we are in there. And I set the REM pod down, and all of a sudden it lights up like crazy, and then just stopped working entirely. So I do believe that there is other things out there that's strong enough to even destroy your equipment. I mean, we had knocks on the wall. We had unexplainable noises throughout the whole night, and then an overwhelming amount of things just messing with our equipment. And it genuinely, at the end of it, it felt like you need to run out of there right now. And that's, we acted on that instinct and got out of there. But yeah, that was wild.
And to talk about that too, as me and Pablo talked over the weekend too, and we were actually kind of curious about the more aggressive type of things that happen in the paranormal world. Man, there's not a huge fan of it at all, but me and Pablo are really curious about trying to take that that footstep in the door on the more aggressive type of things, just because we understand why people are scared of it, and I think people should be. I think it's a very it's a risk-taking kind of thing because it's something that's unknown. We're not educated about this type of thing of what can actually bring back home because we believe in it, and it's just
it's all for the sake of learning and all for the sake of science in order to actually uncover it. Like we're in there in the danger, despite us knowing that it's actually really terrifying. It's all for the answers,
It's kind of I would say it's a risk that we're willing to take if that's how far it's going. We're still thinking about why just try to play this type of why are we trying to play this type of ball game just in this area when we go where the real action or where the real experience happen or whatever it is. We want to go try to chase that, and hopefully we end up encountering it, and hopefully we can, really open the door for
hopefully
people.
He can escape.
Yeah.
So Pablo, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you say that you want to use science to prove the paranormal, right? And that's awesome. What is the process you guys use to say document your findings, document some of the experiences that you have, and do you put them into a form of database so you can look for common denominators? Kind of easier to classify the types of hauntings that you're experiencing or that you're discovering during your investigations.
Yeah, 100%. So we try to do that through our videos. Actually, we try to while we're sitting there recording, if a book of a page moves, then we're looking around for windows. Did the window blow that? We're trying to find any deducting things that we could possibly find in order to debunk whatever just happened. So so to answer your question, we do that with our videos. That's kind of the main thing behind it.
And like what Pablo was saying earlier too, with the modern technology that we have and the research that luckily people in the past having I would say the research that we've done with people's past experience, we're kind of combining both of those of what we live in today compared in the past, and we're really putting that together to try to really capture what is happening in a lot of these locations. And we're trying to what we have now and what people have experienced in the past and really putting it together, and to take that to the next step to where people in the future, as well as ourselves too, people in the future can really keep expanding and keep gaining knowledge about this.
And in my opinion, one of the best paranormal tools that you can use is yourself. How you feel, how you, like, if you go into an investigation and you have something like in your personal life that's making you feel angry, you might encounter something that's angry there because it's feeding off your energy. If you go in feeling sad, you might feel a bit more sad and draw that in. So I feel like your senses, your hearing, your sight, like your smell, like those all tie into it. So I feel like that's one of the best tools that you can use in a paranormal investigation is your own senses and your own experiences.
I think smell.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess what I'm getting at is, say, when you document it, right? So, and I'm talking, spreadsheet. Let's do a spreadsheet on this
Yeah.
particular investigation, right?
Yeah.
It activated REM pod this time, but it didn't activate Spirit Box. But at this juncture in the investigation, the REM pod goes black, and now the Spirit Box is getting active.
Yes.
This is the kind of things I was actually referring to.
It's a lot of trial and error.
That's very good, Rob. That's
And
impressive.
we'll refer back to the history on the thing a little bit. So if our activity that we capture actually, a lot of times it'll actually align with the history of the place that we find
And
out
then you
later.
can
So,
cross-reference it.
Okay,
Like-
okay. I was gonna ask you that. Okay, so I have an investigatory mind, right? Kind of. And NY could tell you this because himself, me, and our other podcaster by the name of JJ Vance, we have doing a series on the Idaho 4 murders. And we kind of get in and kind of ask some questions that, believe it or not, a lot of people aren't asking, right? So that's kind of how my mind works. Like, if you were going to go into an investigation, first off, you know the location. Okay, what is the history of the location?
Exactly.
Now, I was the president of my town's historical society for over 10 years, right? So I learned a lot by investigating old stories and old wives' tales that I used to hear.
Right.
And I did a lot of investigating on our property because there was a lot of information about that at our historical society, right?
Right.
So I look at it. Okay, so we're gonna go to, say, let's just pick something. We're gonna go to an old rehabilitation hospital or a, for lack of a better word, an insane asylum, right?
I was gonna say
So we know, we know basically the day-to-day operation of this place. People are here because they were unwanted. They were dropped off. Maybe people use insane asylums like in New Hampshire, the Laconia State School. It was just a place where people would drop off unwanted kids. So it was kind of like an orphanage, right? And then these kids end up being abused physically, sexually, and things like that. And some of these people live there their entire lives, right?
That's horrifying.
So when you look at, okay, so if we encounter a type of an entity, is he going to be, him or her? Are they going to be angry because this is what was dealt to them in life, and how are they going to be acting like as a ghost, right? Or maybe even if they even know they're a ghost, or if they know they're alive or dead or whatever, And these are kind of the things. So if you go into a situation like that, you're saying, well, we're probably going to get more action with the Spirit Box than we are, say, a REM pod, right?
Right.
Are we anticipating an angry, residual, angry, intelligent? Well, because it would be intelligent if it was angry, mostly, right?
Right.
So that's the kind of things I'm referring to as far as, doing your homework, going into an investigation.
Right.
Trying to be unbiased as humanly possible.
I think that's exactly right.
And with that, we kind of refer back on our previous experiences with different kinds of haunts, because
sorry.
If we refer back on our previous experiences and kind of go on that, and it's kind of trial and error, but a lot of times, like the same equipment that we'll use at one place that has that same kind of haunting, it will work at the other place as well. And so it's kind of referring back, kind of cross-checking with the history, seeing if they have similar kind of histories or haunts, similar claims, and then we kind of cross-check with that.
And trying to find the reason of why you encounter these type of things too. Like you were saying, a lot of these people have experienced things, whether it was physical, sexually, mentally,
Traumatic,
all these different things. When I started thinking about it, I think the best way to try to look into that is try to think about to yourself and
Put
those
yourself
type of
in their
experiences.
shoes.
And a lot of times I've
Mm.
seen a lot of those, which exactly what you said. Yeah, think about it. A lot of these people that have probably came and went through nothing but parents didn't want them. They go in this place where they didn't care about them. They ended up dying not with the
Respect.
the respect or love that we get today from our families or from people like me anyways. They don't get that, so all they know is just people who don't really care about them. And if you go and walk in this place, like myself, I walk in there while their energy's still there and I'm asking them all these questions. They're probably looking at me like, what do you what do you care about me?
Mhm.
Nobody else cared about me. This is what I went through. I think in those type of ways of why you may get these type of this type of feedback from what you try to investigate.
And that's why you have to go in with the right intentions.
Yeah, right intentions.
Yeah.
And you try to be
I
like,
think that's
yeah,
huge.
try to be as respectful as possible too.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Go ahead.
let the ghosts know that you're not there to harm them.
Yes.
Right.
That- that-
Yeah.
And that in a lot of the other ghost kind of what I call ghost hunters that I've talked to, that always seems to be kind of a common thread, right? So
Right.
so letting them know that you're not there to harm them in any way, because these people have been traumatized their entire life. And who's to say they're not still enduring trauma even in death, right?
Yeah.
And this is why they're unable to let go
Right.
and go to a higher realm or allow themselves to reincarnate and come back. Now, I know
Right.
we're getting into different kind of aspects of the whole spiritual realm, and that's why I asked in the beginning, like, really, what is a haunting, right?
Right.
And that's why I say there's more than one answer to that.
Exactly.
So when there's more than one answer, there's going to be more than one type of ghost
Right.
or entity you're going to be encountering, and what kind of mood are they in
And what we have
during
to be
that day, right?
Yeah,
What we
100%.
careful with, and what rests kind of on our shoulders, is making sure that the spirits that we're talking to who have went through all of this traumatic stuff, we have to make sure that, one, that we're talking to them respectfully, and two, that we're not exploiting them. Because we do YouTube, we it's always fun to do YouTube videos, but we also have to make sure that we're being as respectful as possible and make sure that we're not exploiting their stories and we're not just using them for clickbait or whatever. We have to make sure we go into it with the right intentions.
Well,
and that's something that we're going to start trying to discuss.
Trying to balance on our shoulders.
It's kind of ironic or maybe hypocritical to say. I would say in my part is the fact that like we want to try to be as respectful as possible, and that's our whole intention: be respectful as possible during these investigations and whatever we're encountering. But at the same time, we're also like, if something tells us to leave, we're kind of like, why do you want us to leave? And we kind of it's kind of that little nudge that you give what you're investigating, and a lot of people don't like that, but at the same time, you're never going to get that answer until you
ask
until
it.
you get to that point.
I
know.
Yeah. I think like what you're saying here. I think I really identify with it in the sense when it comes to magic.
Right.
In my opinion, and I don't know if you guys even understand that. Like, I'm into occultism. I'm into the Kabbalah. I was a ceremonial magician. I used to, really do that shit. And
Wow.
and so like and that's why I do think that why I think you can prove paranormal and magic is real is because of the like experiences I have had. But going into, I think like a paranormal investigation would almost be like the same way, like for me when I used to practice magic, like sometimes like I have to not be biased at all, like what you were saying. And it really, I do think if you go there and do this with more of an investigative eye, or like actually just wanting to test in a sense, or you're searching for answers, I do think when you'll have a completely different experience.
And
Right?
actually, I wanted to ask you a question about that too, with you being involved with that whole world as well as the paranormal. Have you found anything or any questions that you've had that maybe that we could that maybe help us out, or what are your ideas on the connection? Because I think there's definitely a connection point, whether whatever it is. I think when it comes to magic, occult, paranormal, whatever it is, I think there's a connection
To
of all of it. And in your experience, you've always
Right.
questioned why, whatever it is.
Like, see, for me, and I'll just like, and I'm not like trying to promote myself because I haven't done anything yet, but like for me, like I'll say like the stuff that I have bought and that I plan on using, and then I'll explain why, and I'll try to do this as quick as possible. But just for the basics, just to be like other ghost people, and it just makes sense anyway. I got like a Zoom recorder. I got like the EMF detector. I think that's very, very important because of being a magician. I actually think EMF, in my opinion, magic all comes down to magnetism and electricity.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think you're going to need to test for either very magnetic, pulls, or or it could be a place that maybe is very energetic, which then can feed something that is very magnetic. Like I think there's different possibilities of ways of how you're even going to get paranormal experiences.
Right.
So I get off the thing. So I do think EMF readers are very important. I got a radiation meter, even though the EMF reader I have, it's, if you guys have any, for the conspiracy theorists to listen to my show, I'm sure you have seen all those fucking videos on Instagram where they show the EMF meter and they're putting it on the person's shoulder and they're like, oh, look, it's going off. They're showing this and it has like that tri-field. It's like a 3-thing type deal. I have the same fucking one. I have that.
That's
one.
awesome.
I have one that I got for the radiation. To explain that real quick, is I had somebody on my show who fucks with orgone, and I do think that is actually something like, I think that's magic, the essence of magic. And radiation is the side effect of orgone activating and starting to change and manipulate. In my opinion, that is magic happening. So I have a specific, meter just to check for radiation, because then that should be telling me orgone is basically fucking and doing something right now.
Right.
Something's going on. Something's being created, pretty much with like the essence of life. That's how I'm looking at it. And I also wanted a thermal camera, because I even think myself, if I wanted to, I could go, if I started getting back into magical practices, I could sit down and meditate probably for a half hour and you will see energy come out of my fucking body. I can almost guarantee you that. I think a thermal cam is very important to show energy manipulation.
Yes,
I agree.
And we all agree.
I love that.
We want to get a thermal cam, and the reason why I asked that too is because that's something that I'm very foreign to. I don't really know much about that kind of things, and
we're students of the world. We like to learn about everything.
To be good at what we do. You want to be a good
student.
Hear
something real cheap and simple? Now, I guess it all depends if you're allowed to do it. This is just a theory of mine from my experiences with fucking with real magic. Cheap as hell. I'm going to, as long as Ron lets me to, I was going to ask him, candles in specific areas that are known to have, activity. And I'm not looking for it to go out. And I'm going to place some just in regular places where they normally are. I guarantee you the ones that have paranormal activity will actually burn a lot fucking faster than the other ones.
Really?
Oh, wow.
If it has to do with a magnetic field actually needing some sort of energy to pull from to create with, those candles will burn fucking faster, because I've seen that myself fucking with magic.
I have also watched.
Wow, that's actually really, really cool.
I have also, like, as part of like just an experiment, I have also set out candles where, because we believe that there are like maybe 1 or 2 spirits in our apartment, but I have set out candles and I've just kind of observed the flames and kind of how they move, and if I ask certain questions, do they get brighter, or do they get taller? Like, I've just kind of tried to observe that and see if there's any sort of connection there with that.
Well, no lie, I've had windows closed and you would think there was a fucking breeze going through my fucking those motherfuckers will start going on when shit's up.
Yeah.
No lie.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing too. Is,
And then and that's the other thing too. Why I think a lot of that, and this is another thing which I was going to get into, and I'm just going to put it out there. I think this is possibly Zach's Baggins approach because I do think he's an occultist. Actually, I'm just going to throw that out there. Everybody's heard that come out of my mouth. I think he's an occultist. I'm not saying he's a bad dude or a good dude. I'm an occultist too. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but
Well,
I
that's
do think,
personality.
if you fuck with magic and you go on you go on to some place and go check for shit. If you just fucked with magic recently, you're going to get paranormal effects that you can pick up anyway. Because the magician is going to make it happen.
good point.
As
That's
crazy as
interesting.
that sounds, if you fuck with magic, I think I could actually make paranormal effects be picked up.
That's really
This is
cool.
Right.
out of you. You are actually feeding the energy that needs to be that will feed the paranormal.
But does something like that?
Basically, you're like a battery that's about to fucking explode. So you're going to be able to feed something. If it's literally there, I think the magician will actually be able to help create something happen.
You don't think that would hurt seeking paranormal activity? Maybe.
Oh, that's the thing to think about. No, but I'm saying I do think what I'm getting at is I do think people. I think that goes on already on TV. I'm just gonna put it down.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been several locations that that we visited that ghost hunters also visited, and the workers there would say different things.
I think
about what
if you
actually
were to
happened.
bring Cloudbusters to a paranormal site, I guarantee you get some fucking wild shit going on there
Yeah.
too.
And I definitely like
to suck the orgone into an area.
I would definitely like to, in my experience, to have different type of people who believe in different things. Like for us, it's obviously the paranormal side. People who do the magic things, and all these different types of people who like to investigate what they do.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to have all of them cross and do the same exact thing.
Well, I will say one thing though, like when I was saying about actually trying to create the effects that happen. For me, I would never do that in a house that somebody's living in. I'd be going to a place where it's already shut down and
Right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make that clear. That's not something.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I relate the same thing because I know a lot of people something, for example, something traumatic just happened at some place, and that's still up and running and going. People are like, let's go investigate there. I'm like, hey, let's be a little respectful. Like somebody did just pass away.
Put it this way. I think Mount Wilson Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch, a lot of their known paranormal activity is due to occultism.
Really?
Yes.
I need to look into that then.
Yeah, that's very interesting because that's somewhere we definitely want to check out.
Yeah,
that's
just my opinion. Between that and the government doing shit that they're not telling us.
Yeah.
Well, I will say when I was looking into Skinwalker and I started seeing all the cattle things go on, and just there's so many different things that happen there. I'm just kind of
see, that's the thing. As an occultist, you'd see that as a signature of actually telling you something.
Right.
As a slaughtered cattle.
I love it all, especially the alien type of the world and everything. I love that too. But my passion definitely runs in the paranormal side, just because I feel like this is just me This is just me and how I believe. I gravitate towards more of the paranormal just because it seems like the next step of the afterlife for me, of what's still existing. Now that could I've heard things like, what if after you pass, those are aliens? I'm like, shoot, maybe so. I don't know. I hear all these different theories that it always runs my head. I'm like, man, what if? It's just a question that
everything's worth investigating and looking.
You'll never know. But the paranormal world is something that I definitely not only want to explore, not only for the future, but especially for the past too, to answer these past things that have happened. Maybe because there's been times, for example, we go investigate a place and we would get a name. And you look up that name at that specific location, and it pops up this whole historical thing about this guy.
And you didn't even know that.
Yeah, you have no idea. You're just like, what the heck? And it's very, very interesting.
My biggest thing is I am very obsessed with Victorian spiritualism and
I haven't heard of that.
even how they used to contact the spirits with the seances and all that kind of stuff. And I want to know why it was so prevalent then and what they were doing, how they believed, and everything like that. I kind of want to figure that out because it was such like a big thing for them that they in their homes they just had seance rooms, and I'm like, I wonder why, one, they were experiencing the stuff that they did, and two, why it's not happening as much now as it was back then.
Yo, a lot of people like back in the day that like linked to important people or might have been important people, you'd be surprised how much they were into like channeling. Like there was like this council of 9, and there was like these basically 9 like rich motherfuckers, I think mainly from the United States and maybe a couple other places, and they were all like following this one dude that they thought was like channeling something. You know, something could have been going on. You know what I'm saying? But there is even you know, I'm not knocking the program, but even Alcoholics Anonymous, the guys who started that, I think Dr. Robert Smith or whatever the hell his name was, I think he was the one who was like kind of more into like the seance stuff, and then like the other guy, Bill Smith. I'm probably screwing up these fucking names. You know, like got into it too, and then LSD got involved. But I mean, you know, they were into seances, and I mean, a lot of occultists are really magicians would almost just give it a different name, but like. I mean, I kind of I feel it's just like it's kind of like occultism in my sense, and they just call it a different name too. Like
like you said, like the cult world, when they get, like you said, they'll get on like LSD and all these different things, and you know they really take off in this whole world. That's it's funny too. There's been multiple separate cults like that have done things like that end up all doing the same thing. Like it all connects in a weird way.
They end up with the same like.
I mean, think about if you really think about. All right, the Urantia book, that was channeled from something. Crowley's Book of the Law, you know, from the OTO, that he channeled that from something. You know, Mormonism, that was channeled and read through. I mean, you know, it's so many of these factual things that turn into religions or huge beliefs were actually technically channeled from something else.
Right.
Yep.
I mean,
That's so interesting.
Yeah, that's why we were all asking our last investigation. We started asking each other just like the oddest questions about the investigation, like things that maybe just whatever it was. We were like, you know, what do you think about possession? What do you think about this and that? And we kind of collabed all of our ideas together. And you know, one mind complements another. And I would say mine, and Pablo said some other things too that I was kind of like, it made my gears start running too. And I was like, kind of going back to the relations of, you know, our different ideas. It was,
or if like drugs like LSD, does that possibly open you up to paranormal things like other entities? Many people have claimed that. So,
and we discussed we actually discussed this the other day too. Me and Pablo and Panda, we were on the to our you know, location, but we were discussing like, what do you think possession is, and you know how Hollywood makes it. It's like a demon actually takes control of your body, and you start you start doing all those different things. Well, we were discussing. I was like, you know, I think, and we all came to agreement on it too. And then we also throw in some other factors in there. But one of them was maybe you don't actually get possessed, but you allow demon-like things to persuade you to do other things. You know, if you're not in control of yourself and you're doing these different drugs, and it just opens you up to a different world of these bad things, you're persuaded to do, you know, worse things. And you know, I mean, amount of times
it's all just a big theory. Like we don't know.
Amount of times like you've like looked in the news and like some guy did like some horrific thing to a person. And you're like, who would do that? And they come to find out the guy was like on drugs, believing these different things, and you know, they arrested him. He was saying all these different things. So I don't know. It's always a question that we ask each other about it too. You know, every time it happens, we just keep doing it.
Yeah. But it's just, you know, we're just putting theories out into the void, like, and there's no guarantee that we'll ever get an answer for it. So it's just, you know, just posing theories and just.
I don't know why that's kind of fun, is knowing the unknown. Knowing the unknown, you're sitting there like.
I totally get it, man. No, I totally get it. That's even the thing, really. With, I mean, I even say it all the time on my show. Even when I cover certain topics, I'm like, yo, this is all just like theories.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is like a bunch of people kicking around ideas about stuff we're trying to get a grasp on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like something of the pyramids. Like, why the fuck would they make this for a reason?
But yeah, that's a
Oh,
fun
awesome.
call.
You know, I sorry that I ended up like taking up too much time with like the whole like even going into like what I was suggesting to use to look for like paranormal activity from like
We
magicians.
nerd out on all of it, so.
But I do suggest, I really do think you should. I would try the candles, believe it or not. I do think, like, if it's a place that is known for rooms or whatever that the people might have told you, or from prior research, whatever. I would, they're cheap as shit. You get a candle for $1 and put it under something that so it doesn't fuck anything up.
Especially
If you
for,
see that in a future video, we'll make sure to credit you.
Yeah. If you get the results,
I'm definitely taking that into our as a way to investigate, because think about witchcraft things too. I mean, I'm sitting there just thinking about all these different ways that you could use a candle, and it just sounds like such a great idea
It does.
to use as a way to look into it.
Honestly, it's crazy that we're talking about this, because tomorrow we're going to be investigating the witch's grave, who it is said that if you place a candle near the grave, it will actually burn faster than any other grave. So the fact that we're talking about this is crazy, because we are going to do that tomorrow.
That's
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
We're definitely.
I literally have never heard of that. It is only from my own experience. Shit.
We'll try that.
Oh, these motherfuckers are burning real fucking
Yeah.
I'm buying this. I'm buying and I buy them in bulk. So it was like, I know this isn't like they're from the same fucking box. And I was like, something's weird with this.
Right.
Watch, I'm gonna show up with like a really nice fragrant candle and everything that smells
Bath and
beautiful.
Body Works.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting experiment. See if maybe
That
fragrances do something,
Yeah, we'll
like
bring
maybe
it.
a sage candle or something. I don't know.
Normal. I think it's just a normal basic candle.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just a normal fucking cheap Dollar Tree candle, man.
Yeah, just a normal candle, and maybe do one, maybe try two, maybe just try different things.
Multiple and see which one burns.
I mean, you open up our
definitely pick a place that
for that. So
especially if you're getting a room with if you go in and how you do your REM pods and your whole setups, and if you do your EMF, if you already start noticing you're getting places that isn't getting anything, and then places that are, I would say then that's when you would light the candles. Because you already have an idea of something that's probably not going to get anything.
Yeah.
And maybe,
what's really interesting too that they say that too is that there's been times that we've used all of our equipment and none of our equipment goes off. Nothing happens with it. But by just straight sight and straight hearing and the senses, I've been in places where you literally see shadows just walking straight past, and you hear footsteps. I mean, and none of the gear goes off. Just like, oh, that's good. We hear footsteps. None of the gear went off, and it was just nuts. It was, I think a lot of times you have to go based off of senses, and I think a lot of times even if your equipment don't work, there's natural things like candles is going to help with that.
And then the comments are saying the mirrors, I think those are really interesting to use for investigations. I really like that idea.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
By the way, I'm going to kind of point out a few people in here too that were saying some pretty good things. We were talking about ghosts, magic, and cult, and someone said it's all energy, and I was like, that's a true point. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That's what I was I want to call myself an energy hunter, not really a ghost hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's what you're really searching for, is energy manipulation or something like that. In the I guess the essence of it. It's really just something with energy that's not normal that will show. I think somehow, like you were saying with thermal cameras and these these readers and all that. I think that will show the side effects of the energy manipulation.
Right. Yeah. And going back to what we last experienced, which was this is the first time I've encountered it, and I think it's probably one of the first times that Pablo encountered it as well, was just the audio cutting out on, and he has nice equipment. I mean, this stuff isn't anything that and we're not in a place that you just lose connection on your cell phone. I mean, you can walk around that place, you're fine, until you go down the basement, obviously. But
you bought equipment so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and this equipment was just happening so frequently every time something would happen. And it would honestly almost only happen when something weird was happening. And
Or whenever we were asking questions, it's like it was answering through the static.
yeah, we would ask questions and everything would cut out, and we would sit there and listen. And then everybody in the comments when we were going live was saying, "Hey, it's cutting out." And Pablo, he was sitting there looking at it. He's like, "We're losing audio, like as this happens." And that's
Yeah.
and said, Pablo can go more into that on his side, but I'm sitting asking these questions. He's like, "I'm losing audio. I'm losing audio."
And-
I'm just like,
And I'm full bars service. It's in the middle, like it's kind of in the middle of the city, so it's like it didn't make any sense. But some people were even claiming that they heard actual words through the static interference that we were
Yeah.
getting right after the questions. So
Yeah.
and
that
we
was
actually,
fascinating.
we actually screen recorded it, and I wish that we could, show you guys, but you guys will end up seeing it. But there is, when it cuts out, there is a part when it sounds all fogged up and muted. When the audio cuts out, we're at a hospital, and it sounds like a ultrasound. We can hear a heartbeat or like a
It sounds like a
stethoscope.
heartbeat.
Yeah,
on
it sounds
one
like a heartbeat
part.
coming through the audio, and that was strange. I told Pam, I was like, "This does not sound like a heartbeat like through like an ultrasound or something like that." She's like, "It sounds exactly like that."
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't know that until we slowed it down. Actually, focused on what we were listening to while everything was being muted.
And what's crazy is there's actually I found documented stillbirth at one of the at that hospital, and I was researching it before we went into the hospital, so I was wondering if like maybe it was channeling that stillbirth in the heartbeat from the ultrasound, but that was really interesting.
Nice. And real quick before we do wrap it up,
Yeah.
I also got stuck looking at the live chat.
I,
Sometimes why I don't like doing it because I lose myself in the chat.
there was a lot. I'm sorry, I was looking at the live chat too because there were some people saying some things that I wanted to point out, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that people were saying. I was like, "Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah, after one of you just said that, after she said that, I started reading it and screwed.
Yeah, right. I know. I was,
One thing I did want to, was there any other before, like because I do want to also start to wrap it up, but I don't want to rush you too much. But was there any other equipment that you use besides the stuff that you guys mentioned? I know, like I ended up going off for a while on the
yeah. So obviously, using the music box, and we also used a. Paul could help me out. We used it in the clinic.
I have an Ovulus 4. Have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of an Ovulus?
No.
It's made by a company called Go Stop. What it does is it'll detect electromagnetic frequencies, it'll detect temperature and touch as well. So it will cycle through, you have 3 different settings, letters, so it can say words, emotions, or yes or no. It will go off only when there's an EMF spike, if there's a physical touch to the device, or a temperature fluctuation that you can set the sensitivity to with all 3 parameters. So that device, we got quite a bit of activity just saying, letting us know how it was feeling emotionally. So it will stop or give an EMF or touch whenever, whatever the spirit is feeling in an emotion. It has like a little picture it'll select. So that's one device that we have that's really good. And then a Wimhurst machine. What that does, we didn't get to bring it on our last investigation, but it's just basically a static electricity generator. So you can physically feel the static electricity that this thing puts off, like just off of the hair on your skin when you're turning it. It'll generate static electricity, and you say, "Here's some energy for you to use in order for you to communicate with us," and that works pretty well. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask because I can't. I'm totally forgetting like the name of the type of that device that does that. I am interested in like trying to like maybe get one, but I'm just like so nervous about like if it's even legit or like or a good brand to get. But like, isn't there devices that basically like will pump out like
EMF pumps, yeah,
or like ions and stuff like that too?
Yeah. And I feel like stuff like that would skew with equipment a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're trying to detect EMFs or most of the things is EMF detecting and you're pumping out EMFs, it might like skew results is what I
Oh, see, I've even wondered, I've thought that too from, when you're watching shit on TV, I have wondered, I'm like, if you have that, if you're using that stuff, like, is your other shit going to be kind of like, I can't even use this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, that's already going to fucking create an issue. It's just I have thought of those being devices that could, I guess, speed along the process, maybe.
And
Yeah, 100%. Like you can't use a Wimhurst machine and a REM pod at the same time because it'll set off the REM pod with the static that's being generated. So
that's why using multiple different certain gears that you use it all at the same time. It is going to interfere with another one. And like another simple one, just like going back to simple, is just like a normal cat ball, and that's what this is. And I'll try to hopefully hold it still enough to where it doesn't go off. Kind of show you what it does, but pretty much it goes off the entire time like this. But I don't think it's gonna stop doing it. But if it's on the ground, it'll stop doing it.
And then you just
but it's like if I was saying, it's very very sensitive. And once you if anything touches it or interferes with it, it'll go off, and we'll have this thing just sitting still, like no breeze, no nothing. There's no movement.
And then you're watching it and it's not moving, so you know that it's not the wind moving it back and forth.
It just lights up at nowhere. Just lights up at nowhere, and it's just one of the most simple little things that you can use that you will catch things off.
Yeah, I had seen those things when I was like looking for stuff, and I was like, yo, that actually seems pretty cool.
Another one that we had the privilege to use from Spooky Okie. She let us use her EMF tripwire, which is basically just a long rope of lights that are set off by EMF, and then you can almost see, like, if a spirit is like said to be walking by, you can see the lights down the rope going off, and so it's really
you can see where it's walking. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a really good piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And one last one that I will point out, and we actually didn't use this in our last investigation, and I just didn't think it was either. I don't think I just remembered it, but it's a laser grid. And what this is just this normal little light right here. You turn it on. If I put it behind me,
you can see all the lights.
You see all the lights. And of course, you can change the different things. If anything interferes with it,
you can see the shadow.
Yeah. This is great.
That was another thing that I was looking at, and I was like, I don't know how well that's going to, because you see these ones that are like boxes that create it. And then I was like, I don't know how well a flashlight one is going to be, but I thought about getting it. So, like, from the way that you just used it now, it looks like it would be worth getting. So now,
and that's what I'm saying is that you have. I think there's a definitely appropriate use to use it, and one of the biggest things is using it in
a long hallway.
A long hallway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
a long hallway is one, as well as we've been in like we went to Missouri State Penitentiary. You know, you look at all those cells. You know, just you can light up that whole entire thing. You point it up to where it's covering all the cells, everything that moves.
And then if you see something that pokes out of the cell and goes into it.
Yeah, that's also another really good piece of equipment that is, I would say, more on the rare side that we use. But like I said, down hallways, down larger areas that we can actually use it. Nothing in really close counter things is when I only use it in longer or bigger,
bigger
areas,
spaces.
Bigger spaces.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I'll have to, if you don't mind. Maybe you send me like a link for that.
Absolutely, please do. And I would highly recommend trying to use it.
It's just like I don't want to buy it and then like use it and be like, this is fucking cheap piece of shit. You know they got me. You know, I want one that somebody who actually does the shit uses and can say like I.
And I will say, when it comes to using that laser grid, one of the biggest things to do is have a camera with you. Just because, when it comes to our human eyes, we're only going to be focusing on so many different things. We're not going to be...
Your eyes will always make it move.
Yeah, you're always going to make moves. You may miss anything that moves like that. So if you have a camera that's set up on that laser grid to watch it the entire time, and then review back what that camera may have caught, that's when you'll see, okay, because that's how most of the time you'll catch that laser grid going off is from camera. Nobody sees it by the eye, like something's moving. You usually set up that laser grid, set up a camera,
because the camera and the laser grid is still, so that's whenever, because your eyes, like, if you move, you can see, like, one of the spots kind of move, but if you have a camera that's still, and then the laser grid that's still, that they're both, they're not moving or shaking.
Normal camera, GoPro, anything like that, set those up together, and that's probably the best way to capture anything in that laser grid.
Like a shadow.
And people have got it. We think we may have caught one at a movie theater that we investigated at one time. Not sure, but that was also off a camera, not
our eyes.
Not our eyes. So
you know what? I had also I think I was looking it up. I think from seeing like paranormal investigators. A lot of times you get like those small little cameras that they're putting up all over the place, and I think I was like trying to look into that, and like, is that like from what I end up getting out of it is that you can basically go out and just buy like decent like home security cameras and just like stick them
Yeah.
on.
Or even trail
Yeah.
cams.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because that's what I.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can get like those cameras that people would like normally put on the outside of their house that
Yep.
records on like 1080p. I could get like a bunch of those and put them on a
You can
stand to
use-
do the same shit.
Especially if they have
Yeah.
the vision because they're security cameras. You can use those for
Yeah.
the night vision.
Yeah. That's what it basically. Yeah, it was like decent security cameras.
I mean, any just video camera that captures, footage. I mean, that's basic it.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time that we, like Pablo can really explain a little more about this, but quality cameras would be a little bit more for like recording it. Our
Yeah,
experiences.
it's
Yeah.
more for entertainment purposes. Like people aren't gonna want to watch a 720p video, but they'll love to see a 4K video. So we
Yeah.
get like good equipment just for that reason. but-
Yeah.
You did catch something on a 720, some basic little camera that's going to catch their eye. You just throw that in there, and people are like, "Oh, I mean, we're just using it for evidence. It's not for all full video purposes."
No,
Just-
no.
I wondered if the lower resolution cameras actually picked up more in the way of paranormal.
Well, it seems to be that way because all of like the ghost videos that you see online all look like they were filmed on a potato. Like,
I've always questioned that myself too. I always wonder if maybe I don't know enough about it, but I've always questioned that. Like maybe certain cameras may capture things better than
the
others.
visual static help.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, especially if you really cut down video, like kind of like slow motion videos. Like if you're watching a thing, perfect time, nothing, until you slow it down to like a millisecond and you see something cross past. As an example of maybe older cameras still what we have nowadays, but like I said earlier, the nicer cameras that we use is for entertainment purposes, and Pablo has taught me a lot about it. I'm foreign to that stuff. I mean, I'm still new to it.
Oh yeah, Pablo's the expert on cameras and all that.
Yeah.
I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's a video camera." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, it's really surprising how cheap technology is now, and that's why people will opt to buy a 4K camera or whatever. I mean, that's what I have.
Yeah,
And not only that, but what an iPhone 14 will do.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's or iPhone 15, I guess now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, they're getting
but,
ridiculous.
yeah. Like Catherine, I'm sorry, I got to point somebody out in the comments, but Catherine, about the nanny cams, same thing. I think that's also another great one too. Huge one too, right there.
So we buy motion cameras by the 4-pack because we have motion cameras all over this property because we have lots of wildlife here, and sometimes I just like to make sure what's going on outside before I let my dogs out. Which I don't mean to dive out early, but this is why I've been muted for a while. My girl laying right next to me right here, she's past her go outside time.
I was noticing her sticking her head in, and I was like, she's so cute.
That's her way of telling me, Daddy, I need to go.
I'm gonna wrap it up now anyway, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna save my story for another time.
Yeah,
yes, please do.
That sounds great.
But because I actually was making some phone calls, doing a little bit more research on it just before. That's why I was a couple of minutes late coming on tonight. But all I can tell you is I freaked somebody out today.
Nice.
Big time.
Really?
And I bet now that he's gone home, he's thinking about it even more. So
that's great. Nice, man. Do you guys want to let everybody know where they can find all of your stuff? All the platforms, whatever.
Probably you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So YouTube, just search Boozy Bros, youtube.com/@Boozy Bros. That'll take you directly to our YouTube channel. Facebook, we're called Boozy Bros on Facebook. We're called Boozy Bros on everything. TikTok, Twitter. What are we on Twitter? Or not Twitter, X now.
Yeah.
X, it's Boozy Bros YT for YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. So, but you can find every single one of our links on our website, www.boozybros.com. and that actually showcases a lot of our videos on the website and pictures and everything, so you can see us on there.
Yeah, and then we're
yeah.
Paranormal Wasteland on Facebook, Paranormal Wasteland on Instagram, and then Para Wasteland on X.
Yeah, and which is all connected. You know, anything that you guys
we're merged now.
Yeah, we're merged. So, I mean, any questions that you guys have, or any recommendation of places to investigate,
or
just
like that. Anything that you think you could throw at us, we'll love to hear.
I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Message us about anything at any time. We would definitely love to look into it or answer your questions, whatever it is. You know, we'll definitely respond to you guys, and you know, we hope to hear from you guys. And you know, first of all, we want to thank you guys for letting us on here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great time, and
I had a great time talking to you guys. You guys are so cool.
Yeah, and we look forward to doing it again too. So,
and I really want to hear your story too. I'm very curious.
I'm telling you right now, it's a good one.
Nice.
It's definitely a good one.
I will have to say, I know in this first episode, I guess a lot of it was kind of like, again, talking about the equipment and a lot of your background. But in the future, I would love to actually have you on and just let you actually talk about your cases, and I'll shut up more. And, you know, I'll let you actually come on and talk about the stuff you did.
I will say that all three of us will have stories after stories after stories.
We'll have
I'd really love to have you back on. I thought this was a great chat. I had a really good time talking about the weird and the paranormal and high school. This is really enjoyable for me.
A good introduction episode for the Boozy Bros.
Yeah, for real.
I want to
Ron, you want to plug yourself real quick?
Yeah, while we're here, I want to thank everybody in the chat. The chat was pretty busy tonight.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Our friend Lisa's Miss Soulless is in there. So hi, how are you? So somebody had mentioned something about Ouija boards in the chat. My recommendation is to strongly stay away from Ouija boards.
I agree.
My younger brother had an episode with a Ouija board, and that traveled all the way up the street to where our house was. And my mother had a discussion with him the following morning and asked him, "What were you doing last night?" And he says, "Oh, me and Jake were playing with the Ouija board." She goes, "Yeah, don't effing ever do that again." because whatever you had going on was standing in my kitchen.
Oh,
when you did that.
Yep.
Honest to God story. My mother forbid my brother to ever touch a Ouija board again.
Agreed.
Of course, between our house having a situation and then our family on my mom's side having a pretty major situation, we don't go looking for it, let's just say. Although I'm kind of breaking those rules. That was kind of a rule in our family for several generations. 1, we have no reason to go to Salem. 2, don't be asking entities to come into your life. In the sense of don't mess with Ouija boards, right?
Yeah.
Just a simple example. But I want to thank you guys for coming on. It was a really good introduction episode.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure NY will have you on again, which I'd like to be part of, and we can maybe get into a little bit deeper of some of the experiences that you guys have had. I want to hear more about the hospital, though that one's interesting to me.
Yeah,
and just want to thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
We want to thank you guys. This was a great time.
You guys are great
and
hosts.
we're really looking forward to that story too. So
So listen, you can find me on Instagram at Ron from New England. And we also have the Wicked Planet podcast has a page on Instagram. Okay. You can find me on Twitter X at Ron from NE. Awesome. So I'll be finding you guys tomorrow once I get down into the studio and start doing my cruising around looking for stuff to talk about. I'll hit you up. And,
all right.
Thank you very much, Ron.
Next time we see you guys, we'll have some more
stories.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe by the next time we're all on here, it'll be after I've been to Ron's, and we'll have stories both.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
that's-
good.
That'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
That
So,
sounds good. Yeah.
yeah, I really look
and then
forward
what
to
we
that.
could do is we could get these guys to come on Wicked Planet sometime too.
Yeah.
Oh
At
yeah,
some
we'd
point,
love
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So NY, thank you again for
course.
asking me to co-host with you. It's always a good time.
That's why I ask.
And so the New York Patriot and myself have got quite a few years of podcasting under our belt. So that's why we like to have kind of like the new guns come on and talk about
Yeah.
some of the stuff that you got coming up, what your plans are, and what you got going on. So
Yeah.
very good conversation.
It's almost
Yes, sir.
3 years. Almost 3 years I've been on and off
Yeah.
podcasting with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a long
Wow!
fucking time,
Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was 3 years,
Jeez.
3 years in June. Past June, I was 3 years.
That's
so
awesome.
wow. Congrats! Wow.
Cool. That's cool, man. I didn't really think about that. Fuck, wow, that's long.
Yeah,
Uh,
time goes by fast.
it does. It does.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does. I got your links in the bottom for you guys. I know I have some of your links in there. I might just have your website. I'm pretty sure I have links for Ron as well. If not, I will add them in the live after this. But when this drops as a podcast, you already know the links for everybody is going to be in the bottom. Thank you all very much. And everybody in the chat, that's what's up. Thank you very much. I had a great time, and it was a great discussion in the chat. And that's the end of another NY Patriot episode. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.